And then so she was distracted because someone's like, why are you wearing a tiger costume? And then she turns around and I was like right there. And then she like jumped in my arms, wrapped her legs around me. And yeah, it was definitely like a movie moment, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then of course I kissed her right there. And
He's
she was
depressed now. I don't know how I can handle this. I'm not going to sleep today.
I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to go watch every Disney movie now.
Where's my shorty? Where is she at?
Shorty? What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Unfiltered podcast, brought to you by Crown Movement. Who's in support of mental health and physical wellness.
Yes, sir.
If you guys would like to support that movement, click that link right down below and use code Unfiltered10 to get $10 off any of your purchases.
And don't forget, if you like what you see, if you like what you're listening to, hit that subscribe button, follow us on all of our podcasting platforms, and don't be afraid to also give us a rating. Enjoy the episode.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of RE Unfiltered Podcast. I'm not your host. I'm just the special guest. These guys are amazing, and you're going to love this show.
Who are we? René.
Ethan.
And Jonathan.
Jonathan, the man, the myth, the legend. We've been talking about this guy for a hot minute. We've name dropped him a few times in the earlier episodes too.
Man,
yes,
how many times
sir.
did we try to like line up this episode as well? You guys are like
5 months? I reached out to you beginning of July.
Yeah, this has been in the works for a while.
Right before Vancouver.
Yeah. But you guys just needed to build up a little bit more momentum for me to, bring my presence to the show, right? So,
oh no, 100%. Yeah. You could not come on before episode 10.
He's like that super villain in the show that doesn't get revealed until like the second to last episode.
Exactly.
Season 2, and it's like,
Yeah.
Don't miss the dap up.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Of course.
Hey, he's left-handed.
That's right.
Yes,
my right
sir.
hand's slightly handicapped when it comes to trying to snap my fingers, but I've learned to live with it. So
Snappingly challenged.
But
we don't talk about that though.
I can drink with my right hand.
We don't talk about that.
So when you like get beer cans taped to you, which one do you go for first?
Left.
Always left.
You empty that one first, and then
Absolutely.
Okay,
and then just transfer hands.
In that specific
put the empty one in my right hand.
Yeah,
That's how you do it.
Oh, yeah,
in that
of course.
specific order.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy past few weeks. We've learned a lot from our past guests, and I know we're gonna learn a hell of a lot from you.
Yeah.
It's been
so exciting.
40
a lot
laps
of
around
work.
the sun teaches you a lot about life.
I've only done 19, and I already feel like shit.
Well, let's say it will teach you a lot about life if you're switched on.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're paying attention.
Exactly.
Always got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, that's important.
There's people that go through life and have nothing to show for it and nothing to say for it.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think it's very important to be very attentive to everything and actually be open to the idea of being attentive.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's a question you could ask, and it's like, a lot of people want to ask, like, why is this happening to me? And it's like, if you ask the question, why is this happening for me? It's it's a shift in mindset. It's not my quote originally. I'd love to take the credit for it, but why is this happening for me? And you start looking for lessons in life experiences, and I've had a lot. I've had a lot of hard lessons. But that's how you grow and develop as a person. Like, when life is easy, you're not learning and growing. And so,
if there's no like challenge or anything that kind of puts you outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because I know even for myself, there's been times where I get too comfortable. And I realize this very quickly. Even with running sometimes, I'm like, okay, I'm getting too comfortable. We need to change things up. And one of my favorite quotes with regards to that subject is, if you want to achieve something new, you cannot attack it the same way that you've been attacking everything else. You need to do something different to achieve something different results.
Yeah.
Right?
It all falls into being open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be closed off. But we're swinging guns a-blazing. No intro, no nothing. Like, who even is this guy? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Because we've had another Jonathan, but he was black.
And I'm like
me.
I'm like Casper, man. I'm like the exact opposite. Like I'm truly Canadian.
Here.
I come in two colors, red and white.
Bro's a shiny Pokemon.
Oh man, yeah. Like I don't tan. It sucks. I'm like so envious of people who tan. Like it just ain't happening.
Just do a little Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan's out there. Why me?
Orange man. Yeah. No, I just burn and then I get freckles afterwards. I'm like, this is great.
Freckles are nice.
Yeah, I'm like, who actually wants freckles? Like,
I think freckles are
a lot of
cool.
the girls on TikTok.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They draw them on.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not spending enough time on TikTok.
We don't add these people. We don't add these people. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I've done a lot in 40 years around the planet. So born and raised in Vancouver.
Vancouver, really?
Yeah,
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, a very interesting start to life. So I was born in a trailer park at 26 weeks. So in every sense of the word, I was an accident. A failure of 1980s birth control. My parents were hoping for a girl. And I was born at 26 weeks. So born at home. My mom thought she had to go to the bathroom. Turns out I was coming. Thankfully, my dad had the presence of mind to do CPR with like his pinky finger and use a syringe to unblock my nose to get my airways going because it took time for the ambulance to get out there. So I'm actually...
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I was not ready for this.
So,
miracle baby.
Yeah, basically. And I really took it for granted for most of my life because I'm like, I don't remember it. But I'm writing a book and I interviewed my parents because I'm like, I want to know a bit more about like what actually happened because my parents were were in their early 30s. I'm like, man, this is crazy. 1980s, this happens to you, like. And I was on life support for about 9 weeks or so. But they said this kid looks like he's a fighter, like he's probably going to make it, And it was a 50-50. They didn't know if I was going to make it, but obviously I'm still here. So, but there is some side effects come from that. We were joking beforehand, about the impaired coordination and, that sort of thing. But that's really where it comes from is the last trimester in the womb, there's a lot of moving around. And I spent most of that time lying flat on my back, not doing a lot of moving. And so there's some motor skills that really don't develop quite as well. Now, I hide it pretty well, which is good. But, yeah. No, I went to university. We'll jump ahead a few years because we don't need to do all 40. You know what? Yeah, hey, we could. We got time. I went to university. I studied chemistry and marketing, which
nice mix.
Yeah,
interesting mix.
Yeah.
Science and business.
Yeah. Down there. Well, I thought I was going to be a science teacher. But down the road, I ended up in the supplement industry of all things, which I have a connection to the gentleman you guys know as well. But that time, and then I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. So then I joined the Navy, became a marine engineer.
What?
Yeah, spent about 6 years doing that.
Did he tell you that?
I did not.
I didn't know that. What the hell?
know that.
Yeah. What the hell?
So I did 3 years, took a year off, lived in Australia, got married over there. My wife is from Australia.
Awesome.
And then we came back, did 3 more years, came home, and I was like, you moved halfway around the world to be married to me, and I'm gone all the time. Like, this sucks for you, And so we came home and decided, let's start traveling the world. So we packed everything up into a storage unit, hopped on a plane to Mexico, and started teaching English in Guadalajara, which is a city of about 6 million people, second biggest city in Mexico. We thought we were going to go for maybe like 6 months, and this turned into like a 3-year adventure of like just traveling on the world, kind of not really knowing where we're going to go. And so we ended up, after Mexico, living in Italy, then Poland, and then down in South Africa, and then back to Australia. So we did like almost a full U-turn like around the globe because we went from like Canada all the way around eventually to Australia and then back to Canada. Now, in South Africa, I was attacked and nearly beaten to death, which really was a crappy experience.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my mom was telling me about that. She was like, definitely make sure you tackle that. So yeah. Really quick side tangent. Yeah. What happened there?
Essentially, we were working out on a nature reserve and we were teaching underprivileged young people life skills. Really, really cool gig, basically. I was walking back to the instructor's cabin, which is kind of tucked away in the trees, and the door was slightly ajar when I got there. And I didn't think anything. I was like, oh, maybe I just didn't shut it properly or something like that. Maybe one of the monkeys opened it because there's monkeys out there, right? Like
one of the monkeys.
Oh man, and
they just roam the street.
Yeah.
Really?
Have you ever watched? Like, I remember filming like baboons breaking into someone's house. Like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, like climbing up.
So
to
instead of stray dogs, you got stray monkeys.
Yeah,
they're definitely humans that just don't want to pay taxes. For sure. For sure. They just don't want to pay taxes.
Bro's funny.
I love that. Yeah. So, but I opened the door and there's 3 guys in there. And again, my brain is still not thinking there's something wrong with this situation. I looked at one of them and I was like, I recognized his face. Now, turns out he was actually one of the Rangers, but he was out of uniform. And so that's why my brain was still kind of confused. And I was like, is there something wrong? Like, are you guys fixing something? But this is after hours, of course. I didn't see the 4th guy, and he was outside the cabin. And then all of a sudden, crack, I just get smashed across the head with a rock. And I'm like, what is happening? And the brain definitely slows down in experiences like this, trying to process. And my brain is still in denial. Like, this isn't really happening. I don't know what's going on here. And then smash, he hits me again. Then he grabs my shirt. I was wearing a collared shirt, kind of like this. And I remember the thing that sticks out the most was him like looking into my eyes, smiling, and then saying, shh. and then smash across the head with a rock again. And it's like, and now I'm falling down. My face is covered in blood. Like I'm like concussed, going,
crazy.
What is happening? And these guys piled out and they just started kicking and stomping and beating on me. And I'm like screaming for help too. Like, what the hell is going on here? Thankfully, I'm a pretty big guy, and they were all like skinny, cracked out guys. Legitimately,
yeah, I believe that.
That's how they.
There's monkeys in the streets. Anything's possible.
You ever seen a monkey in the street?
Oh yeah,
I've never seen a monkey in the street. It's wild.
Oh, man.
I've seen moose, but monkeys.
Yeah, and the tragedies like South Africa is a beautiful country, like just amazing, like scenery, wildlife, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I managed to like sort of fight my way to my feet, and I'm concussed, I'm dizzy, I'm stunned. I don't know what the heck's going on here. Like my brain's trying to figure this out. And so I managed to get to one of the other buildings where the other, like my wife and one of the other instructors and all the students are and stuff like this. Like this has nothing to do with our students. And I've been attacked. Like my face is just covered in blood. I got like boot marks and everything and bruised ribs and stuff. And like if they, probably one more hit across the head and I would have been unconscious. And then they would just pounded me until I was dead, because that's what they do down there. And it's not an accident. It's a cultural thing. Like, we will beat you to death and we'll make this last. They could have just like stabbed me or shot me. But no, they would have beat you to death and make this last. We want you to feel
what were the intentions?
Yeah,
like,
why is that? Why is that part of like the culture?
So part of it, I say like they didn't know me. They had no idea who I am. They know me from bar soap, right? But I say I was probably a representation of something they felt had historically oppressed them. I had nothing to do with it, of course. And so...
just a white man.
Yeah, just a white dude.
Minding his own business.
Yeah, but there's something about like a transfer of power. We feel like victimized by, historical events and things like that. And we're taking back what was taken from us. And we're going to do it in a way where you really feel and know our power over you. We're going to make this last, And that's probably why I'm still alive, actually. Because they could have just stabbed me. They had knives, but somehow I didn't get stabbed either. So,
wow,
like very, very lucky. We ended up trapped inside this building, and I actually didn't know at the time how many guys there were. And so it turns out there was 4, but there could have been as many as 15. Like they travel in packs and do this kind of stuff down there. It's extremely violent. And so we're trapped in this building. They're trying to smash the doors down with like shovels and stuff. And again, we don't know if they have guns. I'm just trying to figure out like what way is up. I don't even know. I'm like slumped in a corner holding a fork to like defend myself, basically.
Jesus.
And
oh my God.
So we're trapped in this building. Some of my students, it's really interesting, again, looking back, how different people responded. Some of the guys were like, we're men, we fight, let's get armed up, let's get ready to go kind of thing. Other men were like ran screaming and like hiding in the pantry and stuff like that. So... And we can't really predict how we're going to respond in a situation like that until it actually happens. My wife was like super brave. She started boiling water, got them to push a fridge against one of the doors, arming them with like, pots and pans. And I was like, we're getting ready to go to war here because we don't know. Because there's about 25 of us, but we don't know how many people are out there. It's nighttime, it's dark. There could be a whole pack of them. They could all have machetes ready to hack us all to pieces. Like, we don't know. And the police down there, it's not like the police up here. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever people complain about the police, I'm not going to say like they get everything right. But the reality is, down there, they don't even care. Like,
I've heard of stories where the police actually like hold people like hostage for money and like call parents and people, family, and get them to wire money to let them go free.
Yeah, we had a few instances even in social class here with the curriculum. You study a little bit of the South Africa or Rwanda, places like that, and it's like, wow.
So it's nuts.
It's hard for us to understand because I grew up in Canada. I grew up in like small town BC. Like, this is a world that I was unfamiliar. Now, we were reasonably experienced travelers. We kind of understood that South Africa was a violent place, but nothing really prepares you to go through this. Eventually someone did get through the cops, but it was like a 40-minute drive for them to even get where we were, basically. And to get into this nature reserve, like you drive down through a valley, come up the other side. So from where we were, you could actually see the entrance, you could see the flashing lights at night, but so could all the guys that were out there. And so they just kind of melt into the bushes. Cops come out there and they're like, okay, nobody got raped and nobody got murdered. All right, we're out of here. You guys are probably okay. And my wife was like, no way in hell. You aren't leaving until every one of us is off of here. Like, she had to stand up to the police and be like, they're out there. They're literally laughing at us.
They're just waiting for you guys to leave.
Yeah. And so...
that's insane.
Yeah, so then there's like the fallout from that. Because again, we're not really wired to go through trauma. Like,
yes.
So for me... Again, a lot of this is hindsight reflection, what I understand now, but I fell into binge eating and food addiction. So that was my way of coping with trauma. it wasn't like a conscious decision. And there was a part of me that was like, this isn't helpful. But it's like when there's a fire alarm going off in your head and this thing will make it stop for a moment, you're going to choose that thing.
Mm-hmm. Human nature.
Yeah, yeah. And so I ended up gaining about 120 pounds in like probably under 6 months. Like it was shocking how fast it happened. And people would say, well, like, didn't you notice? I was like, well, it's kind of hard to explain unless you're in that situation. There's a lot of dissociation, a lot of denial, a lot of just trying not to feel what I was feeling. And I had no idea. I didn't know I was doing this really in a sense. And again, unless you go through that, it's hard to know. And that sort of kicked off this journey of well, now where do you go? When I was like 330 pounds, I'm like morbidly obese, but in my head I was still an athlete, and it was this crazy journey of like trying to lose weight. And that's kind of what led me into this world of nutrition and the type of nutrition coaching that I do, because I was trying to find answers. I was trying to find answers in the nutrition science, the supplement science, and like manipulating. I'm a former research scientist. I didn't mention I was a nanotech researcher as well. So I'm trying to...
Dude's been around.
Yeah. So I was trying to find answers. But I didn't know the answer that I was looking for either. So I just looked to, well, what do people do when they're trying to lose weight? You know, I'd been an athlete. I knew about nutrition. I knew about training, that kind of stuff. So I was trying to solve a problem with the entirely wrong tools and skill set. It's like trying to, use a golf club to learn to play basketball.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. And so a number of years, I got pretty good at losing weight, but I couldn't keep it off, and I didn't know why. That was the part I couldn't explain. I was like, if I know everything I do, plus we live in the age of Google, I have all this information, all this education. What is wrong with me? Why can I know all this stuff and not get results, or not get results that stick? And it's because there's this, and I call it living in the gap. It's two different parts of the brain. The part of my brain that was like dealing with the trauma is like the emotional part of the brain. And there's an analogy of with like an elephant and a rider and a path and so on. But so I didn't know all of this. And it was finally in 2017, I hired a coach, and this is maybe the third or fourth coach I'd hired. And it was kind of like a last ditch effort. But why it happened was I was buying some life insurance, as you do when you get older.
Yeah.
Responsible.
Just learned about that in my finance class.
Yeah. Glad you guys learn about it at an earlier age than we do. Like,
yeah.
Hopefully you learn about credit cards and mortgages and stuff
I know,
like that.
The class covered it all.
Good.
I already had prior knowledge, but, it's good to, get taught by a professional.
Yeah. And so I had to get like a medical assessment done to assess my risk of dying. And at the time I was probably about 295, and my blood pressure was super high, and they couldn't get it down. I had to get what's called a rider on top of my insurance. So I had to pay extra because I was at higher risk of dying. Mm-hmm. And that was like this huge reality check, because I'd been trying to, power lift my way out of it. But the joke is that powerlifting is bodybuilding without all the discipline, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Just try to outlift my eating habits, essentially. And it doesn't work. I mean, I can eat 1,000 calories in 5 minutes. It's going to take an hour or more to burn that, right?
Yeah.
So the ratio is just out. So, excuse me, leave that on there.
Cut that out. Okay.
It's unfiltered for a reason.
Yeah, it's
absolutely. Yeah. So I hired this coach, and I'm thinking like, I'm hiring this guy because I kind of want to look like him. And if I look like him, maybe I'll stop hating myself. Maybe, because there's this whole spiral into like self-loathing and self-hatred, and because again, I didn't have the tools. I didn't know how to make sense of everything that was happening in my life and what I was doing and why I was doing these things and so on. Because as a side note, I actually I never saw them again, but I forgave the guys that tried to kill me. And there's a whole sideline about that.
You mentioned a lieutenant? Is that what you said?
Oh,
one of them was
a ranger.
A ranger? Mm-hmm. And you actually knew him?
I didn't like know him, but every day we would drive into the nature reserve, or every week we would drive in. We'd stay 5 days and go back for the weekend. So we'd see him, and we'd wave and hi and sign the papers, that kind of thing. So we kind of got to. It's not like he was a friend, but you kind of.
But he wasn't an enemy.
No, you get familiar with their face.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the reason why it was all kind of confusing to me. But there's just a different culture down there. Yeah. So I hired this coach, and for the first 4 months, like really no change, at least on the surface, happened. I really wasn't losing weight, and I kept essentially like trying to push him away, be like, just call me the loser that I am, just give up on me, because clearly this isn't working, and he wouldn't. and to this day, like I still call him up at least once a year and be like, just have a chat, and be like, thanks, man. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself in that state that I was in. You showed me what I needed in order to be able to move through this in a way that's going to last,
Mm-hmm.
And so he really taught me about what compassion and self-compassion is, because as men, we didn't talk about it. Maybe it gets talked about more nowadays, like back in the day,
There wasn't a big thing, yeah.
No,
that's in the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah. And this is May 2017, so 6-7 years ago kind of thing.
Yeah.
But growing up, it wasn't something we talked about. Like, man, we suppressed our emotions. We didn't talk about, we didn't express them, that kind of stuff. And so now he asked me this question. I say, this question changed my life. He said, Jonathan, if you make a list of all the things you love and value, how far down that list do I go before I see your name?
Oh, wow. Putting yourself first.
No, I wasn't even on the list. So the thing is, the thought
you
was...
weren't on the list.
Right. You think, okay, maybe I'm somewhere near the bottom. It's like, no, I wasn't on the list. So in other words, in my understanding of reality, I didn't even think that I deserved to be on the list of things I love and value. And so and I look back now, and I'm obviously a very different person now than back then, but it was like this moment of like, whoa.
So that was the trigger.
It was. It started something. And I'd love to say like it just transformed my life and everything was like rosy from then on.
No, it's never like that.
The snowball effect.
It's
need
never
that.
like that. It's a slow and steady grind, realization, right? And I love that story because that's so powerful in the sense that you didn't even conceive that at first, right? But eventually, you got to put yourself somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. It won't be first right off the bat, right?
Yeah,
That's not how things work.
It's amazing that all it took was just that switch in your head, that like understanding that this is my problem, and someone and it's also amazing that someone was able to actually do that for you.
That's a real guy. I'm not gonna lie. That's a real guy.
And I think what this highlights is like the power of coaching. First of all, the power of human connection.
Mm-hmm.
But like if he'd asked that question 2 months earlier, it probably wouldn't have had the same impact. So here he is, he's kind of working with me, he's studying me, he's learning about me, and so on. And he picked his timing like perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like now is the time to ask that question, because right now that question, he's ripe for transformation here.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to go on this journey though. Well, what is self-love? How do men practice it? Like all I thought about was like bubble baths and candles and chocolate and crying.
Bath bombs.
Yeah, right. Like, because that's what's presented to us, right?
Lotion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I graciously declined the offer of lotioning my hands prior.
That is true.
Yeah. So, but what's really interesting, so we think like none of those things are really self-love though. They're kind of a type of like self-indulgence.
Yes, there's a big difference.
Emotional, I call them emotional anesthetics. So what we started with was brushing my teeth. And he's like, well, what about, everybody kind of does that like a couple times a day. But here's the thing. So what is brushing your teeth really doing? It's an investment in yourself and in your future.
Exactly.
And so we connected that. So if I was willing to brush my teeth, obviously there was a little spark there. Like I felt like there was something in me that was worth continuing to do that thing. So we started to connect the dots. Like there's an act of self-care. As you go, well, how do you change a belief? There's a whole conversation to be had around beliefs and how beliefs create filters for our brain, which then ultimately guide us to the reality we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, a belief guides our actions. So if I have this belief that I'm not worthy of any kind of self-love or self-care, I'm not going to do the thing. I'm going to basically proverbially set myself on fire to keep others warm. And so we change that belief not through a dramatic, lightning bolt from heaven moment, but through subtly chipping away at it day by day with small actions.
Chipping away at the wall.
Because if we try to take a giant leap, and this is what a lot of people do in the world of transformation and weight loss and things like that. We try to take this giant leap, but our brain, there hasn't been that identity shift.
You're going to fail.
Right.
The issue with that is that you don't have the fundamental stepping blocks, and you're jumping straight to the final, but you haven't even experienced the journey to actually get 100%. There, right? Because the brain takes so much time to adapt and learn the routine, the habit. Because I've actually fallen victim to a very similar thing, right? Growing up, I hated brushing my teeth. Like I saw the value in it, right? Like you don't want to have stanky breath, right?
Sure.
So like you're gonna brush your teeth.
I chewed some gum before I came here.
Yeah, like dude, it's just like for me, it was a social status thing. It wasn't a self-love thing.
Yeah.
And within the last couple of years, even, I've really come to realize that you only get one set of teeth.
Yeah.
You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of them. And that is what it is, right? Like it is what it is.
Gotta uphold the beautiful smile.
You
gotta
do.
uphold your tools that you literally use to live.
Exactly.
Let's see your smile.
See my smile?
Smile.
Look at that.
Hey,
Look
beautiful.
at that. Yeah. Look at the pearls.
Come on.
Look at those pearly whites.
So like, yeah, I saw that. But in the beginning, I was always jumping. I was like, okay, I don't have a night routine. I'm going to create a 30-minute night routine, and I'm doing it today. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to brush my teeth every night, and then I'm going to floss every night, and then like adding things on instead of doing 100 things at once.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
You try to tackle everything at once, and like you said, just falls back.
Yeah, because why would you want to do that all of a sudden? Like why? Like why would you want to do that?
Here's the cool thing about a brain, and I spend a lot of time studying the brain and understanding and connecting the dots between emotions, behavior, psychology, that kind of thing. And so with our brain, 95 to 98% of our brain function is subconscious or unconscious. We don't even think about it.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. So your brain is processing in the neighborhood of 11 million bits of information per second.
Wow.
Could you
And
imagine?
you don't even realize that.
Yeah, could you imagine trying to consciously think about that? You would just run around screaming.
Think about breathing. Think about heart beating.
Yeah.
Think about blood going. Think about hand
Movement,
blinking.
You know, like wiggling your pinky. You don't even think about that. That's kind of a weird motion.
Nah, cut that out. Cut that out.
That's gonna be a clip.
Yeah.
That's a weird motion. Sorry, women.
Pause.
Yeah. So, but we don't think about these things. And so we have a finite, limited amount of conscious cognition or executive function. We have a limited amount of decision-making capacity that we actually think about. So our brain creates shortcuts. We call them habits. We have little blueprints for action that we just run on autopilot. You think about maybe driving like home. You've probably driven there who knows how many times. You could probably do it blindfolded if it wasn't unsafe, right?
Yeah.
And if you've ever driven from like one place to another, maybe driving from home to work, and you get there and you're like, dang, I don't even remember driving here.
Yeah, that's happened to me.
Right. Your brain went into autopilot. It just went and operated that pattern without you thinking about it. Well, your mind is busy thinking about like, oh, I got this next race coming up or something like that. You know, that's where your mind is. And yet that's how amazing our brain is. But it also means that we have a limited amount of conscious capacity. So if we try to shift even, let's say 10 habits at once, there's a 100% chance of failure. If you try to shift even 3 habits at once, there's still an 85% chance of failure. Even 2 habits, you're still like 60% chance of failure. So one thing at a time is really how we create incremental change that becomes monumental change. And so it's hard because we live in nowadays, especially the culture of instant gratification, but there's no Amazon Prime for results.
Yeah.
There's no next day shipping.
That's a bar. That's a bar and a half. That's crazy.
That is
there is
literature.
no Amazon Prime for that.
That is Jonathan.
That is. We're gonna quote you on that.
Oh, 100%.
Put that on a shirt.
Yeah. I love that, man. Put that on. Yeah.
the shirt's gonna be. There's no Amazon.
You gotta work it, man.
That's outrageous.
It absolutely is. By the way, did we even talk about the sponsor for the show?
Oh, we have an intro clip for that.
We have an intro clip.
Yeah, it's like a pre-made intro clip.
Yeah, I was like looking for like your hoodies and stuff. And
No, it's pre-made. We have like our shirts and our hoodies on, and then it goes into this.
Yeah, I know it's pre-made, but I was just trying to give you guys a little extra shine.
We flopped that.
Yeah.
I didn't get equipped with like a crown hoodie either.
Oh my goodness.
We actually have one that would fit you here.
That's funny.
We'll take pictures after this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should. That should be the thumbnail.
Yeah, 100%. But
there we go. Yeah. So that's kind of like, so this got me into this whole realm of like nutrition coaching, but I say nutrition is the cover story because really how we interact with food, how we use food, it has nothing to do with information really. Like we know that vegetables are healthy and junk food is not. It's not lost on people. So it's like a lot of the solutions that are offered are like eat less, move more, just restrict yourself, but like discipline and willpower are finite resources because they require our conscious cognitive function. And so we don't rise to the level of our aspirations, our big goals.
Do you believe that everyone has the same capacity and ability to get to that point, to be that successful and to have all these habits set? Because like I know, a handful of people that are very successful in every area, and then other people that aren't because they lack that discipline, lack that practice, the goals, like all that stuff. But do you think that same person is able to make it to that point in due time?
Good question. Because Now, actually, this seems like a weird side tangent, but I think about like the psychology or neurology of addiction, for example. So people that appear to have a lot of willpower and discipline actually tend to be the ones who exert it the least. So in other words, they don't put themselves in situations where it's really required all that much. Like if you put a bowl of M&Ms on the counter and you walk past that bowl 10 times a day, 9 times out of 10, you're grabbing a handful and jamming them in your mouth because they're brightly colored, and our primal biology is wired to look at like, hey, brightly colored things that are edible.
This is crazy. Everything you're talking about, I've heard in some shape, way, or form in the last week. I just want to point that. That's very crazy.
So there's an element of set up your environment to be successful so you don't have to think about it, right? You want to make sure you go to the gym. Well, get your gym clothes ready the night before, make your life easier where you don't have to think about it so much. So back to your original question, I don't think that everybody actually has the capacity to be like a global superstar. Let's put it that way. That's kind of a myth that we're sold. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't push to like your highest potential. But we also shouldn't say, okay, if your highest potential is to be like a local superstar here in Red Deer as opposed to even a national superstar in Canada, that's not a bad thing. Like this idea, like I think social media culture again has us thinking like we should all be striving. Like, yes, we want to achieve our fullest potential, but there's not a guarantee of happiness there either. Right? And so happiness comes from, I think, purposeful living. You guys
what fulfills what checks off your list,
Yeah.
What actually makes you feel like life is is worth living.
And we've said so much about that in the past as well, right? In prior episodes, it's like you gotta do what makes you happy, but you also gotta stay true to yourself, right? You can't push yourself away in favor of maybe a goal, a dream, an aspiration, because at the end of the day, it all falls back to you, right?
And you sent, I think there were some questions you were going to ask for the episode, and we can definitely dive into that. But because you asked a really interesting question, and I think there's a good opportunity to answer that.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm trying to think what the question was. But essentially, it's when we live in a very self-centered way, it's almost impossible to be happy, because we then develop this sense of entitlement. And entitlement and happiness can't coexist, because with entitlement, the best you can do is match somebody's expectations. And 99 times out of 100, you're below their expectations, because there's just an expectation that this is what I'm going to get. So you can't be entitled and happy. On the other hand, and this is where something like gratitude, which is a really interesting practice, even like scientifically speaking, gratitude wires our brain differently. So when it becomes like a practice, it's not just about sort of coming up with some airy-fairy, fluffy statements. It actually changes the wiring in our brain. So our brain is wired in such a way that 80% of our thoughts are negative, and we're always in the hunt for threats, right? So our attention always goes, or almost always goes, to the negative. That's why the news shows us negative stuff. Social media algorithms show us things that generate emotion, and more commonly negative emotion, because it triggers us to respond. So when we practice gratitude, we're teaching our brain to look around and find positive things that aren't threats. And we change the ratio of negative to positive. Now, it's not going to be like, you still need, like, there's a reason our brains are wired the way they are for helping us to survive. But if you can change that ratio, even to 70-30, 60-40, that kind of thing, you're going to be significantly happier, and the science proves it.
Well, I know even for myself, I've noticed, and my peers have noticed, I'm a very positive person.
Yeah.
I always point out the good in things. Someone will be like, oh, I didn't do well at this or didn't do well at that. It's like, hey, listen, this is an opportunity for you to learn, to grow, and to do better next time, right? And lots of people will say that and be like, no, dude, I didn't do well. Like, I'm upset now. Like, it's done. Like, and it's like, no, it's not done. Like, there's always positive in almost every situation. I mean, there's some situations where it's clearly just not, like you almost dying. But even there, you still took so many valuable lessons from that. You have a story to tell. You have something to share with the world. So, you know what I mean? Yeah,
we call this unconditional, in the coaching world, we'd call this unconditional positive regard, in a sense. So people wonder, like, for example, would I take that experience out of my past? No, I would not.
Exactly.
Right? It is a part of who I am and why I do what I do today. And if I didn't go through that experience, I wouldn't be where I am doing what I'm doing.
That's what makes you you.
Yeah, 100%. So
gives you purpose.
Yeah, that experience led to nearly a decade of struggle. I mean, and in a sense, the struggle continues to this day. Like, I'm a nutrition professional and I don't look like a fitness model. And in my head, I thought that's what I was supposed to look like as a nutrition professional, because that's what social media shows us.
That's the standard.
Yeah, right. But the reality is, I dieted down to visible ab definition at one point, and nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody
The
cares.
only
Do it for yourself.
I love this. The only one that cares is you.
Yeah.
The only one that's ever gonna care. No one cares. Johnny and Ashley don't care.
Johnny and Ashley don't give a fuck.
If you're out there looking like Zeus, looking like Hercules, looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or whatever.
You know what's great?
You're here.
If you're on the absolutely ripped side of the spectrum or the overweight side of the spectrum, you'll get a glance for a moment, and that is it. Yeah. As soon as you're gone, you walk by somebody, be like, hey, that guy's huge. Yeah. And be like, yeah, okay, they carry on with their day. They don't give a shit. It is like a moment.
It's just a remark. Right?
It's a remark, exactly.
It's just like this.
And that is like the key to being successful is doing it for you. Because no one cares if you're wearing Nike. No one cares if you're wearing Adidas,
free
George.
For like a big company,
nobody
basically.
gives a shit, right? If you look at all the most like successful rich people, right? So Jeff Bezos, even Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same thing every day. They wear the black t-shirt. Yeah. Like
simple. Look at Steve Jobs. What did he pull up to every single conference in? Turtleneck jeans.
And they are intelligent because they're not marketing for other companies.
Right. And they're also not wasting their decision-making power on what should I wear today.
Exactly. I've seen that post so many times.
Right. Yeah. Why do I need to create a certain appearance? Well, that's compensation for lack of confidence and belief in self, right? I have to put this certain image that I have to project because on the inside I'm insecure and I don't see myself as enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Timmy Turner's
honestly,
closet
like,
after this.
I remember in high school, there was a group of us, and we were like the. You could consider us like the influencers of the school, right? Yeah. We always wore like the nice clothes, nice shoes, trendies, trying to like trendsetters. I remember this one year I started wearing shirts over hoodies, like a couple of us in the city, and then the next couple of months everyone was wearing shirts over hoodies. Like it was a thing, and I remember when that first started, right? And I was just like, wow,
trendsetter in Red Deer.
So
no, for real.
So that was like kind of a thing, right? And then all of a sudden. I'm in college now, and I have so many clothes, and I don't even think about it anymore. I just put shit on. In high school, it would be an hour, 2-hour process. The night before, I'd be like, hey, what am I going to wear tomorrow? And the morning, like I would some nights I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah.
I'd be like, shit, what am I going to wear tomorrow? Fuck.
This influencer thing.
Yeah, it was like shit. Like someone's going to see me lacking. But now, dude, like I'm at the gym twice a day, so I wear gym clothes most of the time. Yeah. Like I don't even care. I'm not trying to impress anybody.
I work on Zoom all day, so
I got shit to do, dude. Like I don't care.
Like the simplest thing, right? Like I said earlier, you don't want to have the Timmy Turner closet, right? You go look.
You don't want to have that
purple shirt. That's all you own, right? Because you gotta have some sense of personality in what you wear, right? But at the same time, you don't have to stress to it to the point where because no one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares.
I'm golf shirts, hoodies, and jeans.
That sounds very comfortable. Have you seen Adam Sandler?
I haven't.
Oh, dude,
bro.
I mean, I've seen some movies of his.
Him as like a person outside of that, he does not care. Baggy shirt, long basketball shorts down to his shins.
Like the classic stuff.
Like he does not care. And the reason why people admire him so much is because he doesn't care.
Right? Like,
do you know how admirable that is?
There's something to be said about stressing about the smaller things that only you would care about, right? And we've just 100%. Delved into that.
What's that effect? I know you'll know the term. When you go to the grocery store and you think everyone's looking at you.
I know what you're describing, and I'm drawing a blank.
And everyone in the grocery store thinks that everyone's looking at no one's looking at you, bro.
Yeah,
nobody's looking at you.
I know exactly.
Or like the same thing that you said if you're like working out at the gym and you're like, oh, my form, or oh, this and that, and then you're the only one who cares. Everyone else is looking in their mirror at themselves.
Exactly, and everyone like there's a row of people and they all think everyone's looking at them. Yeah. And nobody's looking at them.
Well, I heard this quote and I kind of like it. It's like when you're 20, you're really worried about what people think. When you're 40. You don't really care what people think. And when you're 60, you figure out they weren't actually thinking about you.
At all.
Yes, and I've heard that quote before.
Yeah. And I try to live like I'm 60 right now.
Yeah.
Because, like, honestly, man, I'm going to do what I'm going to do whether or not you like it.
All I'm saying is as long as you feel good in what you're wearing, right? Life is great. Like, there's occasions.
Preaching, doing activities. Because, I mean, there's people that I actually get told all the time, especially when I was in high school, running's not a sport. Running's not this, running's not that.
That's such a goofy claim.
It's such a goofy claim. And I was always just like, all right, you go do your thing, I'll go do my thing. I'm not bugging anybody. I'm keeping myself happy. I'm doing what I love to do. And honestly, your opinion is wonderful, but
It's kind of irrelevant.
I don't care.
It's irrelevant.
Irrelevant. That was the word of grade 12.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
That was the word of grade 12.
And I think there's something interesting here. So there's something to be said for not allowing the opinions of others to sort of influence your actions and behavior to a degree, but it doesn't mean live like a selfish asshole either.
No.
But because I think this sort of gets misconstrued. I'm just doing me. It's like, no, if you're being a dickhead, you're being a dickhead.
Yes, no cap, no doubt.
Right. But you do want to understand, like, you don't want to put your value in the hands of other people. I was just talking to a client about this yesterday. You know, the moment you put your sense of value in somebody else's hands, you're entirely disempowered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can take it back. And how do you do it? Well, for example, my top 2 core values are compassion and integrity. So I want to live by those 2 values. That's the standard I compare myself to, as opposed to people and people's opinions. They are going to change all the time. We're all changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But those 2 values, they're like anchors. They don't change. And so it's not that I live up to them perfectly every day of my life or anything, but those are the things, that's the standard I measure myself with.
I like that. I'm going to write that down after this episode.
I think that's very important is, your values. Like below the surface is what you actually stand for as a person.
I want to make a callback all the way to episode 2 even, where we made that comparison. We were like, there's a difference between being confident and cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? There's a difference between, like you said, being confident in yourself and being a dickhead.
Exactly.
Right?
So recognizing the value that you bring to the world. So I believe that everybody in some sense has some gift to offer.
Yeah.
You know, in my case, I've got a really great brain, and I like ding.
Start playing the guitar.
Yeah. Just to put emphasis on there. I've got a really great brain. Ding. No, I got it free of charge. I can't take the credit, right? I can't be like,
built-in soundboard. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but I've got a really high IQ and EQ. So high intelligence, high emotional intelligence. Now, for most of my life, I actually like hid from these things because one, like being intelligent meant that I got really good grades, which meant that I got like ostracized for doing really well academically. And so I then learned at that age that, don't let people see this because this gets you ostracized. And then same thing being male and having like a high sort of emotional sensitivity to people. So as a kid, it would come out as temper tantrums. I didn't understand what it was at the time, but essentially it's I feel emotions very strongly. I'm an empath. And so I would take on other people's energy and then it has to come out somehow. So it would come out in the form of a temper tantrum. But I didn't understand that. So again, I learned to bury and suppress these emotions. And then the traumatic incident that I went through, that particular one, really was the catalyst for all of this starting to come out and figure it out. So
did you ever go to the therapy, or was the life coach kind of your?
I did a few sessions with a trauma counselor, which helped me to understand like what was happening in my brain.
Kind of navigate.
Yeah, like I would get like these blinding fits of rage, essentially, where I wanted to kill people, and I was like, but a part of my brain goes, "Whoa, what's happening here? This is not you," and yet there's this like, I want to kill people, and it sounds crazy to say that. I'm like a hug people, like I'm one of the nicest guys you're gonna meet.
Teddy bear.
Right. But so they call them these intrusive thoughts. Like these thoughts would come into my head, and I wouldn't know what would trigger me. But I'm like, I wanted to be violent towards people. Mm-hmm. But really, what it was is, so I was jumped. I was outnumbered. It was a night. It was a surprise attack. All these things where they really took my power away, and they put me into a very vulnerable situation. And so my attempt. So when something's been taken from us, we often try to take it back. It's the classic, the abused becomes the abuser.
Villain origin story.
Right. Something was taken from me, so I'm going to get it back. And so that's what part of this was. So part of me making peace with all of this was like actually understanding that I actually wasn't a bad person for these intrusive thoughts coming into my head. Mm-hmm. But I had to learn how to kind of wrap them in a bubble and float them out of my head instead of acting on them. Yeah. I never acted on them, but
Well, what's actually crazy about that is like I was actually reading the other day.
Coughing in there, man.
I was reading the other day that villains and superheroes both have the exact same origin stories.
I knew we were gonna get to this,
right? Yeah. They both have the exact same origin stories, right?
Yeah.
Look at Batman. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Superman, Spider-Man. They all have the exact same trauma. Versus all of the villains, the Joker, so on and so forth, right? They all have the exact same trauma.
Yeah, everyone loses something.
Yes.
And it just depends on how that person chooses to deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? I love that.
Comic books are like a great like microcosm of life.
Sure. They are. They
that's why they're so popular. And in a sense, people don't realize that. But when you really break it down, That's what it is. I like that because the new Metro Boomin album just came out, right?
Okay.
That's like
I don't know if you know
our
who
generation
that
type
is.
beat,
Right. Okay.
right? But
I'm like, what?
it's
Metro
a
Boomin,
really,
he's a producer,
Okay.
and he produces for like a lot of artists, and
Right, yeah.
he doesn't actually rap on the album. He produces it and gets all the features,
Mhm.
and then it's his album.
And so,
Okay.
oh
Really
my
cool,
God, the choices were immaculate.
Yeah,
S-
such a
just to
good-
give him some free advertising there.
Yeah.
But the overarching theme, the album is called Heroes and Villains, and there are so
love
many quotes, so many different things. Like
it's insane.
a lot of people like to think about rap as just nonsense, right? Like modern rap can be 50-50. Like
Sure.
I won't lie, a lot of it's like, oh, we go party, we go drink, we get hammered, we get slammed, we
do drugs.
we do drugs,
Women.
we get women.
You gotta
Yeah.
like search through it. It's kind of like going to Winners.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. Listen to
Facts.
rap is like going to Winners.
You gotta dig through it a little bit.
Yeah.
But in this album, then like where there's still some of that obviously rap presence, when you think about the meanings, it's crazy, right? Like if you search for the meaning in something, you'll find it,
Right.
If there is that meaning to it. And I also love there's a sample from have you heard of the show called The Boys?
I haven't.
Really, really good show. It's
like-
basically
Not that connected to culture these days. I'm like too busy doing my own thing. But
No,
yeah.
That's
no,
life,
That's
that's life.
good.
Yeah.
that's how it should be. But basically, this show centers around kind of like an aspect of superheroes that no one's ever really seen before, right? Because a
I like that.
superhero is always just a superhero, the good guy,
Yeah.
right? But in the show, right, the superheroes have been seen to have like these dual personalities, right? Where they have one face for the media, the people, right? They're that good guy, but behind the scenes, they're just, again, confident versus cocky. They're just cocky. They're dickheads.
Yeah.
And it just, the quote, the sample in the song, right? The first song talks about how the guy's fed up with being persecuted for his strength. He's fed up with how he can do things because in reality, these people need him. Right?
He's the hero, and he's the only person that can
Right.
save them.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Right. So where that ties all back into what we're saying here, right, is basically the sense that when you're thinking about the power that people hold, right, when you're thinking about what you can do faced to a situation, right, it always boils down to how you choose to react to certain situations.
It's all about your reactions.
How you choose to use that power. With great power comes great responsibility.
The best quote ever.
Literally bars. Spider-Man,
Well, even
Chef's
like
kiss.
huge influencers, right? And when they have a huge following, right? Lots of people look up to them and whatnot. Whatever they do will influence
Creates a
literally
ripple effect. Yeah.
huge amounts of people. Your decision can either make or break or make someone's life. It can. And it's the same thing with what you said. Your life coach told you what, like less than 5 words?
Yeah.
And boom, this huge switch went off in your head and you were just like, okay, well, I gotta fix this, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with that. With great power comes great responsibility because you hold so much in your own hands and you don't even understand how much of an influence you have. J. Cole actually said this in a diss track against all these new rappers, and he was saying like, you guys don't understand how many people you guys are influencing with this bullshit. Like you guys are influencing millions of kids with, oh yeah, it's cool to fucking overdose and get drunk on every day and party. Listen, man, it's not cool to do that. You're gonna go broke in 5 years because you buy all these cars, these shoes. You don't even have a fucking house. Have you even bought your mom shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And J. Cole is the most humble rapper. He is, him and Kendrick Lamar, most humble rappers, lyrical geniuses.
Stay tuned for episode like 1000 when they're on the podcast.
Oh,
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
And they subtly get dissed by all these little rappers, like the people at the bottom of the totem pole have been in the game for like what 2 years, blew up off one track, and they think they're them, but they haven't even done anything. They've done nothing.
There's like a fascinating train of thought in here, and maybe it's a little bit conspiratorial, but
we
think
like conspiracies.
Yeah.
right. If you want to undermine a population so you can control them better, you feed young influential minds certain things. So what does TikTok show us? I don't know. I'm not on TikTok right now. I feel like it's
Me
Chinese
neither.
It
spyware,
depends
but,
because
I'm not on it either.
the way the algorithm works, right? If you think about it, right, there's base level, because this is a broad topic, but there's an AI that filters through all the information, filters through your likes, filters, and this AI isn't like always constantly listening to you or things like that. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros, right? It's not like somebody is listening to you or what you're doing in the moment, but that AI is there, right? And so it takes whatever you show to like and amplifies it like tenfold, so it keeps you on the keeps you on the app, right? So what does TikTok display? Well, whatever you want it to, right? If you like girls,
it displays what you want it to display without you even knowing what you want to be seeing.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the really messed up part.
Is you can now tweak these algorithms. So let's say TikTok is an app created by a Chinese company, which is owned by the Chinese Communist Party, because everything China is, one way or another. So now if they want to undermine the US, for example, and the West or whatever, as their rival, it's like, okay, we're going to make sure the young people over here, this generation, excuse me, gets shown like eating Tide Pods and snorting cinnamon and stupid things, and they're going to go viral doing these things. Over here, we're going to show our population like engineering and mathematics and all these things to like teach our young people to be more intelligent. And it's like you're teaching one culture to celebrate being an absolute idiot, and another culture to like grow and develop yourself into something. Like that's next level, sort of basically cyber warfare.
Everyone always
cyber
says
warfare, propaganda.
Yeah, everyone always says you become who you hang out with. Dude, you become what you watch. You become what you listen to.
In your environment.
Everything. You become what you eat. Exactly. What you consume. Your environment. Everything that you breathe, view, fucking eat, anything, all of that. You're going to become that, an extension of that.
So here's what's really cool. So it can be kind of scary to think about. There's all these factors that can potentially influence you, mess with your mind, manipulate you, all this kind of stuff. But
it's overwhelming.
Right.
It's so overwhelming.
But when you're aware that this is happening, it's like, okay,
then you're in control.
You take back the control.
Exactly. And I like coming back to what you were saying earlier, chipping away at one habit at a time, right? Slowly but surely overcoming these things. Like, that's one of the things I've been tackling throughout the last few months is I catch myself on Instagram just randomly. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Get off it.
That's the hardest one, honestly, especially... I'm not even going to say for my generation, for every generation
100%.
is it's the internet, dude.
These problems,
social media,
have existed for years, but manifest themselves in different ways.
Yeah,
right. Like
the addiction.
None of these things are new, right? In a
they
sense,
find new forms to present themselves
exactly.
in.
Yes, technology is new, obviously. Like,
but
this iPhone,
human psychology is the same.
But human psychology is the same.
Do you have any examples from when you were young?
Yeah, I grew up without the internet. Like, could you imagine that world? Like, where
I honestly
was there
not.
anything that kind of displayed the same human nature as it does today? With
I mean, video games had some addictive quality to them, but like they were like horrible graphics, like Minecraft level graphics, but like for everything. Right.
I have a Nintendo 64 upstairs.
Right. I'm talking like,
I have a Game Boy
monochrome
upstairs.
Game Boy with like, the gray dot matrix Tetris.
I'll show it to you after.
Yeah. So there really wasn't the same level of pull. Like digital technology has been engineered to hijack it. Like, yeah, you got magazines, you got movies. Like there was definitely ways that maybe we were subtly being influenced without being aware of it. But it was not nearly the same reach. Now we have this device in our pocket, 24/7 access. We didn't have 24/7 access to this
Which
stuff.
is terrifying.
Yeah.
That thing is so terrifying.
100%.
It holds so much power. With great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
You watch old movies and you see, these kids hiding magazines under their beds, right?
Oh, man.
Dude.
I remember the first time I was like 10 years old and my friend's older brother showed me a Playboy. Like, and I was like...
You're just like...
Well, I didn't
Is that
know
where this comes from?
I was just going to say... I was trying to hold it back.
I'm unfiltered. I'm unhinged.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I remember just being
boy.
like so stunned. I was like, but these women are naked. Like, I was so naive.
Innocent.
Right. I was like, but are there people like looking at them? Like, what's happening here? I had no idea about this stuff. And probably like, but now you think like you can be shown this a million times over.
Dude, our receptors are so fried.
Yeah.
Like
Dopamine,
fried. And it's so sad because we live in such a world of lust. Like true love is so hard to actually find.
I got it.
And experience. Yes, if you find that, when you
trying to
find
be
it,
like you, my boy.
for everyone out there, when you find it, do not let it go.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing. So I've been together with my wife for 17 years. Yeah, a little over 17 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and 16 years married at the end of this month, at the time of recording this.
Wow.
Beautiful.
There's we have been through hell and back, because my wife was with me when I was 23 years old and I was jacked and I was getting ready for boot camp and I was an athlete and I was looking good. And she's been with me when I was 330 pounds and obese and hating myself and trying to push her away because I felt like I wasn't worthy of having her in my life. And
shout out to her for, sticking around for that.
That's wow. We all need someone like that, and we have people like that. Some of our parents are like that, but not everyone's like that.
But here's the thing, so we obviously have a chemistry. I knew from the day I met her, I was like, that's the one. And it's weird, you can't explain it, because I randomly met her. She met some of my friends in Vancouver. I was living in Victoria. They were like, hey, do you want to show this girl around? I'm like, okay. This is old school, pre internet dating. Right.
Like
so
coffee
shop.
Yeah, right. And maybe they were trying to hook, set something up. So we spent 2 days hanging out, and the first day we called our friends and we're like, hey, we need a few more hours because clearly we're getting along pretty good here. And then we went and played frisbee golf, and then I brought her to the ferry terminal and gave her a hug, said goodbye, and I was like, I thought I'd never see her again. Because, again, we didn't use the internet in the same way, but I got her email address on a piece of paper that said a Gumtree note from Michelle. Yeah, my wife's from Australia. So a week later, I was like, I should email that girl and see how she's doing, And it started this sort of correspondence back and forth by email. And then MSN Messenger came out. I don't know if you know it yet. Okay.
At least it wasn't a note in a bottle. Yeah, at least y'all got the email.
Yeah. And then Skype came out in about 2005. I'm dating myself here, but there was like a 5 to 8 second delay. You'd be like, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That was our communication. But and we'd buy phone cards from 7-Eleven where it's like, okay, do I buy the one with the connection fee that's $1.69 plus 1.7?
I remember when you had that, René.
Yeah.
You had the prepaid phone.
Oh man, so that was it. But it got to this point where we were talking every day for an hour a day. And she was back in Australia. She had a boyfriend. I had a girlfriend. We hadn't told each other about these things.
Wow.
Right, because we were in our minds. We're just friends. But it's her mom was like, "Yo, there's something up with this guy. You talk to him for an hour, and I just hear you laughing all the time. Then you talk to your boyfriend for 15 minutes, and you're crying your eyes out.
Oof.
There's something.
It's a sign.
Yeah." And she was in denial. She's like, no, I just like this guy. And then so my mother-in-law was like, she wasn't my mother-in-law at the time, but she's like, that's some serious So then when I would call, she was like, Michelle, it's serious Right.
So, oh my gosh.
2.5 years later.
I love moms, dude.
Oh, moms are them, bro. They know everything. They are so smart.
Yeah. So it was January of 2003 that we met, again, just kind of dating myself. And then 2.5 years later, I convinced her to come back to Canada. Now, again, I haven't seen a picture of her. I don't even I sort of. She'd sent me one photo. And it was a high school, school photo kind of thing. So I didn't really. I had this idea of what she looked like, but we didn't have Facebook. And so I was like, okay, you. How am I going to know it's you? Because if we're going to the Vancouver airport, it's July, one of the busiest airports in the world in July.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'll wear a colorful hat. And you'll be able to spot me.
Oh God, I love this story.
this is some Disney shit, right?
Dude,
here.
I wish I was around in that time, dude.
So, I don't know if you've ever been to the Vancouver airport, but you come out and you kind of have to walk along, to get out. So you have to walk a little bit before you could maybe hold up a sign or whatever. But it was packed, and the doors open, and out comes this girl in a Tigger costume.
No way.
Tail, head with the
Stop
ears, Tigger costume. And she's bouncing behind her luggage trolley, look, because Tigger bounces. But I couldn't get to her because there's this huge crowd of people there. But I was like, oh, I know who that is.
you already knew.
No, this is so funny.
And then she's being like, this guy better be here, damn it.
I look like a fool.
I just flew halfway around the world. And it's like a 14 to 17 hour flight between Australia and Canada. Oh. And she'd told this story, and the flight attendants went and got her luggage for her and stuff. They're like, oh, you're gonna go and meet this dream guy or whatever. And so, but between the customs check and exiting, you're supposed to just get out and stop. But she's like, I gotta put my costume on. So she's trying to put her costume on, and security's like, you can't do that here. She's opening her suitcase and all this. What's going on? And she's like, just give me a second here. I just gotta, all this kind of stuff. So she comes out anyway. So she can't see me. She's like, where is this guy? And then I'd actually kind of ducked away because I was like, man, I don't want to have to just watch her from a distance and not be able to see her. And then so she was distracted because someone's like, "Why are you wearing a Tigger costume?" And then she turns around, and I was like right there. And then she like jumped in my arms, wrapped her legs around me, and it was definitely like a movie moment, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then of course I
Certified.
kissed her right there, and
He's
she was like,
depressed now. I don't know how I can handle this. I'm not gonna sleep tonight.
No, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. I'm gonna go watch every Disney movie now.
Where's my shorty? Where is my
Where's she at? Shorty?
And so of course, you know, but then she was like, "Whoa, this is weird. Like we'd been talking on the phone for like 2 years, but we hadn't seen each other. We hadn't seen each other's faces." And so she like buried her head in my shoulder, and then she said, "Then you spoke." And she's like, "Oh, I know that voice. Like that's what I know." And so because she tried to tell some story about how she was just coming over here to be friends and sort of figure out what's going on here and all this. And I was like,
Stop the cat.
Yeah, I was like,
Stop the cat.
Stop the cat.
I was like, forget that noise, you know? And anyway, so then she like unzips her Tigger costume and she has this shirt on and it's Winnie the Pooh and it says, "Be my honey."
Oh my, stop.
I can't do this.
So
I can't take this anymore. I'm out.
yeah, 4 months later we were engaged. It was like, it was clear that we were meant to be together.
You were such a lucky guy.
Oh,
You deserve
incredible.
that.
Thank you.
That's
That is
insane.
wow.
Yeah.
And
That is what every man dreams of.
Yeah.
true love is real. It's
Like,
there.
it exists.
It's there.
Do you still believe that it exists to that extent in this day and age?
I do. But I think that we've been fried by like Tinder and whatever other dating apps are out there where we're just taught to like make a snap value judgment based on somebody's appearance and a profile.
You know what I think? I think there's too many options.
Yeah.
I think there's too many things for people to choose
Well, I think
from.
it also dives into TikTok as well, right?
Yeah.
Apps like that, Reels, whatever social media platform you use, right?
Yeah.
If you cater yourself to it, you're gonna be exposed to. That's a thing I always like coming back to. A really good thing I saw is back in the day, right? Back in your time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It was simple,
Yeah.
right? You meet a person, you see a person, you talk to the person.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
you could see millions of different other women in a single day.
So this points to a very specific phenomenon, and shoot, I'm like the name just like went off the tip of my tongue.
Damn.
But it's
all good.
the paradox of choice.
Paradox of
Yeah.
choice.
Oh.
Woo. Right, because if you have two options, like it's 50-50, you're going to pick the right one. If you have a million options, one, you know, and you think in your head like there's only one chance of getting this right and a million chances of getting this wrong, like so we human beings do better with less choice. So
Oh, 100%.
infinite choice makes us infinitely unhappy.
Yes.
And so it's not like we were obviously like a good match, Michelle and I. Shout out to Michelle. You're amazing. I love
Big
you.
shout out.
Shout out to Michelle. I don't even know you.
Yo, that
But
Tigger
that is
story
amazing.
is crazy.
That is it.
Yo, I'm gonna get a Be My Honey shirt.
Oh, yeah. And so that was but what it was is we had this foundation of like friendship and communication before we ever were intimate together. You know, and it's not to say,
Okay. Hold on.
my God.
Okay, you know how like hookups are like just so normalized?
yeah.
Okay, so for myself, you're right, I've kind of been put in that situation once or twice, and I hated it. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The entire time I was like, I don't even know your favorite song. Like, what is happening, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's happened to me a couple times. I simply will not do it. If I don't get to go out with you with zero intimacy for like at least 2 weeks to a month,
Yeah.
right? With zero intimacy. I mean, not even like kissing, like nothing. I mean, I just wanted to get to know you, how
Yeah.
you got to know her for 2 years,
Yeah.
right? Like, I want to get to know you so well before anything even occurs.
And sorry for cutting you off again, but this, oh my God, when you said the friends thing just further proves my
Yes.
point. Episode
Yes.
18, we talked about relationships.
Shout out to Xavier.
Ethan
Yeah.
was, with both of us, we were just jaded as
Jaded.
fuck. Just sitting there just, nah, it's not happening.
It's not
Right?
happening.
And then I came to an
Yeah.
epiphany later on. I was talking to our guest Xavier. Shout out to him, homeboy.
Yeah. Shout out to
Homeboy.
Xavier, man.
Love Xavier.
We were talking to him,
Yeah.
and we were like, it's being friends with the person first.
Yeah.
The issue is that people attack the task with the romantics first, the intimacy first. That is not the way to go about it.
You need to like relax.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing
You
as
need
we
to
said
chill.
earlier. You can't jump all the way to level 100 without experiencing all the prior levels
You-
first.
And that's what we're trying to do.
You know what they say? If you want something to last forever, then why are you trying to rush it?
Yeah.
You know
Facts.
what? Go through the motions, enjoy the process, enjoy enjoy the little things before you can't even go back and enjoy them, right? Like, how are you going to be friends with somebody if you're dating them within 2 weeks? You don't. You're rushing through so many important moments together that you could share.
Well, we treat like sex like a throwaway thing now.
Oh, dude, it pisses me off.
That's such an intimate moment. Like since I was a little kid, I have just been a romantic, like a hopeless romantic.
Yeah,
the very
dude,
bare
love that.
bone of the
Paris,
term.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
some wine, nice little picnic
Yeah,
under
like
a tree.
I'm a corny motherfucker.
Write you a big note
You'll
about
like our
expressing my
proposal then.
love. You know what I'm saying?
I'm corny.
I want to hear that story
You
one
know
day.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna hear that story in a bit here. We're not done.
Oh man, but this is the thing, is the promise of like, so this is really highlights the difference between pleasure and happiness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're two different circuits.
Lust
of the
and
brain.
love.
Right. One is a serotonin based, one is dopamine based, and yeah, we kind of need both. Like there needs to be a physical attraction, of course.
Of course.
But what I can tell you, after like 17 years together, like it's not there's still sparks, but it's not the physical dopamine fueled attraction that like keeps us connected. You know, we've been in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's been with me when I went through the hell.
That doesn't exist anymore.
You know,
I'm sorry to say it. It's hard to find that.
now here's the other thing. You kind of figure this out. Is like one of your other guests. Shout out to that guy that talked about we don't get time back.
Oh, that was Ian.
Ian McLernon.
Ian
Yeah.
Ian, shout out to you, Ian.
Love Ian.
Amazing. Love
Sick
that.
guy.
I'm a fan of the podcast, which is why it's great to be on here.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
this guy.
I
Too.
love this guy.
So I'm 40 years old. Nearly half my life has been invested in being with this woman. So I have something that all the money in the world cannot buy. You could have $100 trillion and you could not buy what I have. So I have something of infinite value because I've invested the best years. Well, I think the best years are still ahead, but I mean, like up to this point, the best years of my life have been invested in this relationship. Every day, it's the little things. So we developed a couple little rituals like early on in the relationship. Our last words are always, I love you. We do this because if something happens to us, we do not want anything else to be our last words.
Yeah.
And so there's this recognition that one day that is going to be our last words. And so always our last words are I love you.
As you mentioned before, when you said, some things become subconscious, right? You don't even think about it. Do you think that the words I love you don't hold the same meaning, or do you still say them without even while thinking, like completely conscious? Like it's not just something that you just say because
The
it's just something
of that word.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right, because it is something that you can say flippantly.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, I love you, and then they'll be like, what? And you'll be
To
like,
me-
oh, what did I just say? Because it's
to-
just so like normal, but like
to me, those three words hold so much power. I don't think you
Yeah.
can ever really just say it like.
And we mistake love, like you said, love and lust. We mistake the two. I'm feeling so amazing in my brain. Like the first 6 months together with somebody, your brain is like on cocaine.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this is amazing. It's going to be like this forever.
love is
Like,
the most powerful drug.
right.
It can either make
I
or
think
break a
lust,
man.
Lust is.
Lust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love is different. Love is a little more subtle.
Did you think that we can be in full control of every decision when we're in love, but not when we're lustful over somebody?
Yeah. When it's lust, it's a lot harder to emotionally regulate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's overwhelming urges, but I mean the reality is like sex is fun. I enjoy it.
Oh, obviously.
But
Yeah.
like it isn't like the everything that I thought, we thought it was when you're like a kid and when you're young. It's like this held up to be like this holy grail of things, and it's like, no, it's one part of like a life of coexistence. Like it's one part. I mean, now we got a kid. I mean, gosh, we love this kid, but like I thought like I knew what love felt like until I became a dad.
Wow.
And I was like,
Can't wait.
Dude, I cannot
Yeah.
wait to be a dad, dude. I'm going to be such a good dad.
oh man! And afterwards, I'll show you
I'll
some.
hold you to that.
I'll do the proud dad stuff.
Bro,
And I'll show you
come
guys
on,
some
bro.
clips of my kid. Man, he is insanely cute, and this is like a super fun age. He's just coming up on 2 years old, and so he is
Love
super
that.
talkative. But he doesn't have full sentences. And like my favorite thing is he calls blueberries boobies.
I love this kid.
Oh,
I love this kid. What's his
man.
name?
Jaden.
You got to get a shirt with blueberries on it.
Yeah.
That says boobies.
2 blueberries.
Oh
Yeah, 2
man,
blueberries,
that's amazing.
bro.
We're totally gonna do that. And blueberries are his favorite fruit.
Yeah.
So now if I have them in the shopping cart and I'm like pushing the cart through the store and he wants those but I haven't paid for them yet, he will shout boobies on repeat while I'm going through the store.
Oh my goodness.
But and these are the things and this pure innocence. He has no idea.
Yeah.
He's just saying, and that's a toddler brain, right? Like, there's no. All it is this is what I want. I see that and I want it. That's all I can conceive of right now. But
That's beautiful.
oh, it's amazing. And rice cakes. He likes rice cakes of all things,
I love rice cakes.
and he calls them
Solid.
caca. So Right. And these things, I'm like, I just want to hold on to them because I hardly remember his first year of life. Like, because it was a blur, because having a kid, a human being that you were now responsible for keeping alive and trying to mold into a decent adult human being at some point. Like
I would not be worried, Jonathan.
Yeah. First year is exhausting. It blew by. You know, so much change happens. And so I really love between 1 and 2. Because the pace of change slows. Like, we still see it every day. But I get to, like, soak it in and appreciate it. Baby to 1, oh, man. You go from, like, this little potato that just, like, eats and sleeps and craps his diaper to, like, a talking, walking, climbing, moving human being who's interacting with you. And so it's the most incredible experience. But I'm glad I'm an older dad. I was 39 when he was born. And I wouldn't have been the same dad if I was like 35 or 30 or whatever, because of all the stuff I was working through. And so in one sense, we're like, dang, it sucked that it took till I was nearly 40 to have our first kid, but it's the best thing ever. And then, so that's like another level of love where, like, I'll come up the stairs from my office and this little dude just makes a beeline for the stairs shouting dada. And it's like the greatest feeling ever. Like, this little human being thinks I'm the greatest thing ever. And then jumps into my arms and you know, gives you a snuggle.
You're gonna make me cry.
Yeah, honestly, I saw this Ryan Reynolds clip, and he was saying, like, you know, I thought I knew love before I had my kid, and he's like, you know, I love my wife, but you know, if anyone was ever gonna try to harm my kid, I'd use my wife as a shield. And he's just saying, like, you know, I love both of them, but you know, this is different. This is a different kind of love.
Definitely funny.
He is very funny. But like, yeah, it's not even something that you can really describe. And I haven't really been there, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it to be something that you can really describe.
God,
No.
it's I have like 6 or 7 nephews now. I have 4 sisters.
That's amazing, man.
And you know, like, obviously I'm not their father, but you know,
You get to be uncle.
like the uncle feeling, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine how far dad goes, right? Like,
Yeah.
That rush that you get.
that's crazy. And my
Yeah.
dad, rest in peace, always used to say, right, you are a product of myself and your mom, right?
Yeah.
We will always cherish you. We will always love
Yeah.
you, because you know, that's like the feeling that you're saying. It's indescribable.
My mom,
right?
like, ever since I was young, even to this day, she, every time I see her, she's always like, I made you. Always. She's always saying that. It's so funny.
She does say that.
So
She does say that.
Come on, bro. Come on.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Let's see this.
2-3 episodes in a row. God.
Unfiltered. But so here's something else that's amazing. So my wife watched me go through trauma and my recovery from that, and, you know, obesity and all these things. I watched my wife go through pregnancy and childbirth and raising a human. And I always felt a respect from others, but now that I've witnessed, like, her growing a life inside of her body, and, you know, the first time you hear the heartbeat in the ultrasound, like, this tiny little thing, it's you know, and then it grows and grows and grows, and then her ribs are buckling because it's like this expansion and so on. And then watching, like, people, you know, say like, oh, don't ever watch your wife give birth or whatever. Like, you'll be scarred for life. No, I'm not. My level of respect for my wife just went up like a million times over.
I can only imagine it's a thing of beauty. Like,
so
I don't know why people would hate on
I'm
that.
so excited.
And I remember, like, seeing the crown, a little bit of hair, and I'm trying to cheer her on, and like, for her, like, she's very touch sensitive, but I couldn't touch her in that moment, like, because she was like, it felt like a ton of bricks. You know, people think, like, when giving birth, the movie's always portrayed as, like, I know, they're these screaming, like, maniacs. It's like, that wasn't the case, right? Birth is a the first stage is like maybe contractions every 10 minutes to every 5 minutes. It just feels like your abs are tightening, and it's uncomfortable. And we worked on breathing together, and they get closer and closer together, and it's okay. It's time to go to the hospital, you know, that kind of thing. The hardest part is the pushing stage, which can take like anywhere from like 30 minutes to 3 hours. And for my wife, it was like 2.5 hours. But all I could do was cheer her on and like wipe the sweat from her brow. That was literally the only thing I could do. And it's like the most almost like helpless thing in one sense, watching my wife labor to bring this life into the world, you know. But like when you could see the crown and the head emerge and so on, it was just, and then you hold him for the first time and you go, like, something changes inside of you. You're like, wow, this is yeah.
Can't
you know,
wait, bro. I'm literally 19 out here. I'm like fan of them. I'm like, God, please.
I can see why shorties get the baby fever.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then like recovery from that, like, it's so hard, like what her body's been through. And like, I think about how sometimes like people like, oh, look at this, she bounced back from like mom bought her. I'm like, screw that, man. Like, my wife has sacrificed her body for the rest of our life to bring this little being into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to call him my boy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's the magic.
Oh,
That's the magic.
Yeah.
When I said earlier,
and that's why I'm so disappointed with our society, like the way girls are portrayed as like, you know, objects and, you know, just like disposable.
honestly
and
embarrassing. And we're not saying
it is
that,
embarrassing, dude.
We're not saying that to like, oh yeah, we're the better men, right? Because we've all had moments of lapses of judgment.
We're not the better men, but we're the men that can realize where we've gone wrong,
right? Like it's
we're the men that can reevaluate and change.
Like it's just messed up, man. Like I hate that so much. I've had a few friends in the past too that I was like, oh, let's go to the club, let's go get some bitches, let's go do this, let's go do that, and it's like
you are dehumanizing
just
another
a fleeting thought, you know? Like it's like what does that do for you, really?
Are you really going to be a better person for that?
Are
like,
you going to treat her right,
what?
or is it just
What?
like a one night thing?
Right.
You know?
It's always
when
a
we
one-night
treat
thing,
another
bro.
human being as a throwaway object, but that's what like even like pornography, like porn, that's what it teaches us.
Mm-hmm.
That in particular, women are these throwaway objects purely for our pleasure. And I'm like, no,
no,
it is
no,
not
no.
that, and it just messes with our brain.
That's why earlier, and I want to go back to this because we've been talking. Somehow we always find a way to get weasel relationships into our podcast. I don't know.
Well, dude, it's a huge part of your life and my life at this stage because we're searching for what Jonathan has. And we're not going to stop searching for it. How I Met Your Mother, bro. Well, there's 11. Oh, such a good show. How many seasons was it? Like 11, I believe.
Man,
and dude, 11 seasons of him trying to find a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know how many girls he went through? Like, it's gonna take time, bro. We can't give up.
Yeah. It's a constant process, right? But where I'll go back and say, right, I'm a hopeless romantic, right?
Love it.
I can never just like I've had those moments, right? I've been put in situations like Ethan, right, where it's like a one night thing, or where it's like a quick thing, right? And I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that because that doesn't create any connection.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything, and looks don't last forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Personality does.
People go looking for all of these features and all of the perfect. That doesn't matter. It's all about the personality. It's all about who you're with. I saw this quote. It was like 50 quotes from an old man who said, you know, this is what you should do in life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them had to do with the fact that you can't choose based on looks. You know, you can't be careful of who you choose for the rest of your life. Right? Because it's the small things that matter. It's the relationship, what you've cultivated, not the looks that'll give or take one day we're all going to be 6 feet under. Right? That's what makes life life.
Reality.
Right?
Dude, every day we're getting closer to our inevitable death.
Yeah.
Like cherishing every moment and really understanding that like the spirit, their purpose, their dreams, you know, like beneath the looks, beneath the surface, who they are as a person is what will really truly add value to your life. Because that's what a relationship is. You're searching for someone to add value to your life. Why would you be in touch, in contact with someone that doesn't add value to you? What benefit is that to you?
And the whole thing about like hookup culture and all of that is that it's nothing in that is built to last. No. You know, like when I talk to another girl, right, and I'm like trying to get to know her and all of that, that's the beauty of it, is starting to be her friend and then progressing into not just knowing her for 2 seconds and then I never see her face
But you
again.
know what's awful, Jonathan, is that I tried to understand and tried to teach myself that culture because that's what I was surrounded by.
Right, that's
and
what we're supposed
I couldn't.
to do. Yeah.
I was like, why? What's wrong with me?
And I love
why
that
do I not
because
understand?
You chose to stay true to yourself.
For a little while, I was not. I was like, okay, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not able to do this? Why am I so like scared? Like, this just doesn't feel natural, but I'm forcing it because I want this to happen so that people think that I'm more valued as a man. Yeah. But like, you don't hold more value as a man.
God, that's so real. That's so real.
Like, everyone's like, oh, what's your body count? What's your body count? Yeah, what's your body?
Who the fuck cares?
Who cares,
Go
man?
Home.
Right.
Who cares,
Go
man?
home.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just those things that people, I feel, really need to be careful.
People need to be careful with what they're valuing. Like, what actually matters?
Yeah, because, you know, and like I wish that like my wife would have been my first, truthfully. You know,
Of course.
Oh, there's
Of
so many
course.
times where I like think about my first time, and I know the story. I've told it like my friends, and we've talked about it, right? And it's like, you know, it happened, right? And that's life. I can't take that back. That's a choice that I made, you know.
Yeah.
But then there's always gonna be that moment where, you know, I wish like this person would have been my first.
Yeah.
Right. But like at the end of the day,
You gotta just accept that, man.
Yeah.
that's life.
Yeah.
That's
Accept
life.
that.
She probably wouldn't even be there if you didn't go through what you went
Exactly.
through.
It's exactly what he
Right?
said with you know, experiences, man. You need those
Yeah,
experiences.
you go through the motions.
They lead you to what your inevitable.
It's not to
you
say
know?
that I regret
Mhm.
any of those choices, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I want to say at least not 90% of them where it's just, you know, like it happens.
That's one thing I love about Xavier, or a good friend named
Yeah.
Xavier. The other day I sent him a post that said, if you were given a box that had everything that you've lost in your life in it, what is the first thing that you would go and reach in for? And, you know, in my head, I had like a list of things. And he said nothing. He said there is absolutely
God.
nothing.
I love, man, I
Absolutely-
love everybody, bro.
absolutely-
People are so awesome.
Absolutely nothing that he would
That
be
is so
looking
awesome.
for.
Yeah.
Because he is content, he is happy with his life and how things have played out, and I believe everyone should think that way. There is absolutely no reason to be living in the past thinking about something that occurred, that happened,
Yeah.
because what is that going to do to change right now?
And you sent me that post too, right?
Which one?
I don't.
Yes,
that
I did.
same
Yeah,
post.
it was the one with the
I
Toy
didn't even
Story.
know what to answer.
Dude, there is no answer.
I had no answer because same way Xavier echoes his sentiment, right? Like that's life.
Yeah, I wouldn't take any experiences out of my past. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, I think it's okay to express some regret, but I mean, I don't hang on to it. It doesn't weigh me down or things
exactly.
If anything,
But
I would
it's-
want to go relive experiences.
like that. Yeah. So I think
what your memories are
regret
for.
is just like, it's acknowledging that, hey, I've changed as a person, and if I could go back, I would behave differently in that situation. So there's some value in that. But I mean, if it drags you down and you go through your, like you talked about, you go through your present life just feeling weighed down, like there's no way to live. You know, I go back to being a dad. Like I try to absorb every little moment of my boy's life that I can, because I just know he's
Absolutely.
changing so much. And I'm like, I know I can't hold on to this. So the next best thing I can do is be as present as possible every time I'm with him. I want, and you know, if ever I pull up my phone, he like reaches and like pushes it away, and it's like, oh yeah.
I like that. I whenever I'm with people,
That's
my phone's
beautiful.
always face down or
Yeah.
put away, because you know what? I'm spending time with you right now. I'm being present right now.
Two things, right? Always episode 23 in McLernon, man. That was crazy
That is a
episode.
brilliant one.
episode.
Loved it.
Be present.
Yeah.
Live in the moment, right? People are always checking their phone, this and that. Set it away. I even
Yeah.
struggle with that still.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I've
'Cause
been around technology literally since I was born. Like the first things I had was like basically a computer, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just learning to push that away and value the present more,
Yeah.
because that's time you will never get back.
But this is why we get to enjoy conversations like this, right? Like,
Exactly.
Exactly.
and obviously, we're gonna have to do another episode.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
We'll definitely discuss that after.
Yeah.
The one thing I really want to like drag across really quick is in my like culture, in my friend group and whatnot, we always say like, don't chase things. Don't chase love. Don't chase a job. Don't chase this. Don't chase that. Whatever's meant for you will naturally find its way to you, one way or another. Now, Ian McLernon, he said,
Chase love.
chase love, right?
Yeah.
And originally when he first said that, I was like, yeah. And then looking back, I was like, that goes against completely like what I believe, right?
Right.
Like you should never chase anything, because what is meant for you will find its way to you. But I just want to know what you think about that, because what he said, it completely shifted my mind. I was
So-
like, maybe you should. I was like,
here's-
oh, what?
Okay. And I think I'll maybe answer this in maybe a broader way.
Yeah.
So there's sort of like this philosophy out there that started with like the book The Secret or Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill earlier on, that kind of thing, that like, you know, think it and you'll manifest it into your life. And that's an attractive thought. I understand why we think that, oh yeah, but try as I might, I've not been able to manifest a Brinks trucks in front of my house dumping bags of cash, right? Like
Not yet.
not yet. still working on that. But what we picture, we can't have something in our life that we haven't first pictured in our mind, right? So we want to have an idea of what it is we want in our life, and if we can create a picture of that, and a belief that it's possible to have it in our life, that belief will instruct our actions. So we'll put ourselves into situations. Like if you just sat down here in your basement and be like, hey, yo, the perfect girl is going to arrive in my life just one day. I'm going to manifest her. Like there's no way in hell that's happening.
No.
You have to put yourself. So we are physical, we're metaphysical, we're spiritual, I believe, but we're, there's something in us that's intangible. You can't put in a jar and measure, but we're also physical beings. So we have to physically act in the physical world. We have to put ourselves in situations where this is possible. And so when we have a belief that informs or guides or directs our actions, we will then steer ourselves into situations and positions where the door of opportunity is open. And I like the idea that luck is because people might think, oh, you're lucky that you met this girl. And like, it wasn't luck, but luck is the meaning of preparation and opportunity, right? It was the right time, the right place, but I was also in the right place to form this connection with her. So we want to put ourselves in situations where it's possible for this to happen. So maybe you aren't chasing it, because you're right. If you chase, you then start to put blinders on.
No, exactly. Yeah. So like you don't chase things, right? Because they're gonna run.
But you put yourself in a position where the opportunities might present themselves.
And I think that's what Ian meant by that. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I also love this quote too, where it's a garden, right?
Yeah.
And if you stop making your garden nice, pretty, smell good, whatever, taking care of your garden. If you stop taking care of your garden, start chasing the butterflies, they're going to fly away.
Yeah.
But if you take care of your garden, they'll come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's always something to be said about a balance of both. Chase, but don't be tunnel vision. He said that too.
He did. Yeah.
Because I think, like, for example, you guys you have some fans already, I would assume, and you're gonna have more fans, because you're two very sincere, honest, heartfelt guys who are like putting yourself out there and chatting. And like one day, if you guys happen to blow up, and I don't think it's everything to be viral and be a superstar and that kind of thing, but you'll have girls like wanting to throw themselves at you, being like, where are the men like this? Where are they? We can try and shift like our fundamental biology and things like that, but it's like women still want genuine men.
Oh, of course.
Actual men.
Just as men want genuine women.
Right. Not little boys that are like my toddler knows what he wants and screams for it, but all he wants is to do the things that give him pleasure. Now I have to, as an adult, like put him to bed and be like, okay, it's time for you to get some sleep. Your little brain needs sleep. He doesn't know that. And so we want to have an adult brain. I like going through life with like a childlike sense of wonder. I watch him discover things, and it's so fun to see that when his brain lights up about something new. He'll fart and then he'll just start chuckling, like, and he's, his little teeth start to show up, and he's just like, dude. And it's, so for him, it's like, but there's this childlike, I'm sorry to use farting as an example, but it's like, there's this sense of,
man, it's part of growing up.
Right. There's this kind of like
realizing
this sense of childlike wonder, like, oh, my body did this thing. That was kind of neat and a bit weird. Like, what happened there? So we want to go through life with like this sense of childlike wonder, like this curiosity and this openness and exploration, but we still kind of have to have an adult brain as we go through it. So part of what gives life meaning is obviously this curiosity, this wonder, this kind of childlikeness, so to speak. But it does need to be steered by an adult brain, because a toddler if you put a toddler in a room full of candy, he'll just eat till he's sick, going after whatever feels good in the moment. Whereas an adult recognizes, hey, I need to exercise a little bit of restraint here, because this isn't good for me.
Right.
I have a few things I want to get off my chest before we end it off.
Fire it away. Because
this is cooking, right? The first thing, right, I want to say is sex is such a... It's not like glorified on a pedestal once you get there, but it's something people need to stop taking for granted, bro. It is something that is the most intimate, I think,
you can ever be with anything.
You break down your walls, your barriers, everything in the most vulnerable way you can be. And people are just throwing that away. People, when you have sex, you give a piece of yourself to that person.
It was always described to me as you have a cookie, and every time you have sex, you're giving a piece of your cookie away.
Exactly.
And if you abuse that, then once you find the one, you're going to have no cookie left.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right? Like you
need to cherish that.
You can't be like that, right? Because that person is going to hold that piece of you forever. Forever. People like to be primitive about it and call it bodies, notches. When you think about it, though,
that's a connection.
When you think about it, it's not a body count. It's not a notch. It's a piece of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
People should start looking about how many notches do you have? No, how many pieces of myself have I given away?
I love that.
Think about that.
It's very true.
The other thing, we say a lot of things too on the podcast about like how social media can be negative and how everything influences us. And I hate to be like the fear monger, you know? I was thinking about that earlier, and it's like, you know, yes, there are so many bad things if you think about it that way. But if you work on yourself, like I said, if you work on your garden, right, there's nothing to be afraid of because you're setting yourself up for that success.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's a tool.
It's a tool.
I was just gonna say that. I struggle with, you know, being addicted to it, right? It's hard, right?
Well,
it's very
literally
difficult.
engineered to hijack our brain.
Yes,
it is.
That's what
and
it is.
we've all fallen into the trap. I'll speak for you guys because I'm sure.
Yep.
And every once a year I delete it completely. I delete my account. I fall off the face of the earth as far as Instagram goes. Snapchat, same thing. I don't do it all the time. Sometimes I delete my account, I log out, whatnot. So recently I was off of it for 2.5 months, off of Instagram.
Nice.
And I came back on with intentions of using it in a positive way as a tool.
Exactly.
So lately, the only time that I really use it, right? You know, there's a few times, you know, I'm swiping through running things and nutrition things and stuff like that. But I honestly use it as a tool. I'm either learning something valuable or I'm reaching out and networking with people, right? We're reaching out to people for the podcast, reaching out to people for designing clothing, reaching out to people for all these different ventures. Because René and I, we have a book of ideas, right? We have so many things that we want to do, and we need connections to achieve them.
We finna make
so that is a tool now. That is one of the things that I use to become a higher figure, right? And put myself out there.
Yeah, and here's really interesting. You know, we've been talking about relationships and bit by bit and developing, cultivating. Business is like that too.
It's the same. It's probably the same aspect.
100%.
Like if you were if you were handed a 7-figure business right now, you don't have the tools.
Do not have the tools.
Right.
It would crumble.
Right.
Instantly.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy, you know, and I love that you guys are actually doing that. And I really think, and maybe next time we chat, we'll talk about entrepreneurship. I love it. It's kind of, it's a roller coaster, but it's like taking your destiny into your own hands. And
René and I already know that, you know, this is not going to be up all the time, right? We are going to enjoy the downs just as much as we enjoy the ups.
It's the journey, not the destination.
Kobe Bryant said it best.
Like the corniest things are the truest.
Well, you know, the person that loves to walk will get to his destination a lot faster than the person who hates it. Right? And what I mean by faster is mentally, right? Yes, they'll get there in the same time, but the person who hated it is going to be exhausted once they get there. The person who is loving the opportunity, the journey, they're going to be ready to go for another one 5 minutes after. Sure. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be tired at all because they actually are passionate about what they're doing. And that's what I believe, is that we as humans are all given a gift. We're all given something that we're passionate about. And you hear this a lot, right? Oh, you know, discover your gift, discover what you're good at, this and that. Yeah, you do need to do that. And you cannot force yourself into a space that is not meant for you. You know what I'm saying? You know those little toys that, you know, they have the shapes and you need to drop them into the box? You cannot fit the star into the square. It's not going to work, right? I was thinking about like headphones the other day. Like, who designed Jaybird? It's a brand I really enjoy. They're designed for running and triathlon specifically. And I was like, I wonder who designed these. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that. And then I thought to myself, well, you aren't passionate about that. You know, that's not something that you're going to do. And I bet you that whoever designed those is not passionate about podcasting the way you are, and about, you know, creating and running and all these things. So we all have a spot in the world and in society, and we all need to like stay true to that and work hard at that, not give up at that, and not try to fit into places that we don't fit.
The most successful businesses, I feel, are led by passion.
100%.
Always. If you don't believe in something, it'll just fail. It will never succeed.
If you were doing it in pursuit of money, then
you're in the wrong spot.
You misunderstand what business is about.
Don't chase money. Ian McLernon. I swear, that episode was crazy.
Ian and Michael
Barker,
Michael
too.
Barker.
He said it too.
He said, listen, man, I've never chased money. I've always done things out of the goodness of my heart, and with the intentions of bettering mankind and bettering the world.
Keith echoed the same sentiment. All the people that we've had on here, man.
Jeff Bezos, he is rewarded with all that money. Elon Musk, because he's making the world a better place.
Exactly.
Now, I know some people might argue that, but he is. They are making the world a better place. We get stuff that we order today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
Amazon
advancing
Prime.
the human race, right? Electric cars, advancing the human race. I know there's lots of controversy around him right now, but advancing the human race, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, you are rewarded financially based on your impact and your ability to advance and aid the world. And point blank period. That is it.
This is my last point, I promise. Stop trying to look for the perfect girl. The perfect girl doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's an issue I feel with a
Yeah.
lot of perspectives.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, a little bit of a hot take.
I love it.
But the perfect girl you'll never find your ideal. That doesn't exist because especially now when you have your phone and you can see millions of different women, like we were talking about earlier, you see millions of different personalities online, all of this, right? You mold your brain to almost have a hyper specific, right? And that always will derail you. You'll meet a really good girl, a nice woman. You'll meet that person and she'll never be your standard, right? You'll just be like, fuck, well, she's cool, but she's not her. Yeah. No, she might be. You're just closing yourself off from
Another thing is loving the bad things about somebody. Because you know how easy it is to love the good things about somebody?
You gotta love every part, piece
like you know how
equally.
easy it is to be like, oh, honey, I love you. Thanks for doing the dishes. Or like, oh, thank you so much for, doing the laundry or whatnot, But you know how difficult it is to be like, oh, like... You know what? I still love you even though you didn't put your dishes away, right? You know what? I still love the things that you don't do,
because that's
right?
what
that
makes
make
the
me a
person
little
them.
bit exactly.
Well, just here's the thing: if they were perfect, like there's no room for growth.
Exactly.
And we need that, and that's the thing with a relationship, right? Through your 17 years, yeah, you guys have grown and changed exponentially together, right?
Together, that's
together,
the
and it's because you guys are moving as one. You guys
always
are
have
not
to be-
moving as two people
Yeah.
in a relationship. You guys are moving as one person. That's what marriage is.
You always have to be.
That's what a relationship
willing
is.
to grow with the person. Sometimes it's inevitable.
You grow
right?
together or you grow apart.
You grow together or you grow apart. But if you have that, and you grow together, and you find that connection is still there, and it's always gonna be there, man. Hold on to that.
Yeah.
Hold on to that.
Well, and here's maybe my last point to share about relationships. So my wife and I, we had chemistry from the get-go. I knew there was something special there, but we can't take it for granted.
No.
We still work at it, and we work at it every day with little things, doing a little something for each other, always reminding ourselves of so every day we have what we call morning snuggle time. And now Jaden's a part of it as well.
I like that.
And it's really important because what I'm doing is I'm connecting myself to the two most important people in my life, but I'm connecting myself to the biggest reason why I do what I do. And so every day I start, and it's like, this is why I'm doing this. Don't forget. Yes, I need to make a living. Yes, I need to be a provider, but this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for these people.
That's what it's for.
I like that.
That's what the fight, that's what the struggle is for.
So just, you find these little things every day to feed that relationship, to nurture it. It's not about these grand gestures about sitting outside the window strumming a guitar, singing a love song. Yeah, that's but
maybe
nice.
every now and then. That's what I would do.
Sure.
I like that.
Doing that once every 6 months. Versus doing something every day. What's going to grow a stronger connection? The little things you can do every day that don't require a massive amount of effort, but it's the brushing your teeth of relationships.
Yes.
You know why she fell in love with you is because, you grabbed her a glass of water without her even needing to ask you. Like when you were grabbing yourself one, you also grabbed her one, right? Yeah. It's those little things that actually mean something to her, and that's that with every relationship.
So just going from being self-centered to purpose-filled living to wanting, these guys you talk about in business, wanting to serve others, wanting to bring value. There's so much more meaning in life when we are serving others, and we can serve others and make a good living. It doesn't mean be a slave to people and be a doormat. I don't mean that, but I mean add value to everybody you interact with, and most importantly, add value to the life of that person you want to spend your life with.
Exactly. No, 100%.
You spent some time in Mexico, right?
I did.
Can you pick up on a Spanish a little bit?
A little bit.
La vida solo es una. Life is only one. You only get one life, so live it to the fullest.
T'as
Be
seulement,
present.
t'as seulement une vie, et c'est tout.
Be
Après ça, c'est fini.
No, he's spitballing French.
we
we will have to definitely have another episode. There is so much we both wanted to cover, but like, oh my God.
I bet you we'll probably have 2 or 3 more episodes with you to actually narrow in on some subjects.
There's so much more. Stay tuned for that. This is Jonathan, amazing guy. Thank you so much.
Oh,
there you go.
thank you so much, Jonathan. Till next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been RE Unfiltered Podcast.
And we outie.
One time.
One love.
What's love got to do?
Got to do with it. What's love?
Oh, dude, good episode.